I have the pleasure of talking to Tristan with CheapRVLiving. Tristan, thank you so much for driving all the way out here and meeting up with me.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
We've been in contact since the last RTR. I met him at the 2022 RTR and got to see his other setup. And he just recently told me about a new setup he had, and so I wanted to check it out, get a little tour of it. So again, thank you for making the drive out here.
Yeah, no problem.
We're sitting here in beautiful Idaho right now near Stanley. It's a gorgeous area, and it's kind of an overcast, nice day. So we're just gonna get right into it. Tristan, so tell me a little bit, like, when did you first start doing like the SUV RVing?
I've been doing it for probably 6 or 7 years. At first, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to get like a van or a truck and you know, sleep in the back of the truck or like put a proper camper in the back of the truck or what. I decided to get an SUV just because I like SUVs more.
Okay.
You know, I don't really want to drive a minivan. They don't have enough clearance for the places that I want to go. I didn't want to drive a big cargo van just because they're too big for like a daily driver sort of thing. Trucks, I like trucks, but I mean, SUVs are just trucks completely enclosed, right? So like
better gas mileage.
Better gas mileage, yeah. and I just like, again, as a daily driver, it works for me. And like, I'm not doing this full time. I'm a part-time adventurer,
yeah.
And so I don't need like anything too crazy. I don't need a big RV or big camper or anything.
Gotcha, that makes sense. And you are so much more nimble in your vehicles that you've chosen.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that brings up another question. How often are you on the road? Because you're not full time, but
right. I spend probably 2 or 3 months a year.
Okay.
Camping. So between 60 and 80 nights a year is usually what I do.
Oh, 60 and 80 nights. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking, you go out on a trip, is it for the weekend, for the night, for a week? How long do you usually go out for?
It depends on what I'm feeling like and where I want to go, basically. Okay. Like, so I live here in Idaho. I live in eastern Idaho, and there are lots of places I can get to within a few hours. Like, I'm within 2 hours of Yellowstone, Grand Teton National Park. I'm 4 hours from here. But if I want to go to California or Arizona or Washington, that's going to be a longer trip. So I can do the close by places in a couple of days. But if I'm going further afield, I don't want to spend 2 days driving, be there for a day, and spend 2 days driving back. So
that makes sense.
I tend to make my longer trips longer so that I can you know, make the most of my time there.
Absolutely, and gas mileage.
And gas mileage.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're going to go to California, you might as well do all the things.
Exactly.
That makes sense. You live here in Idaho. By the way, beautiful state. It's gorgeous here.
I think it's the most underrated state in the West. That's what I've always said.
Yeah. This is only the second time I've been here, and I've been thoroughly impressed. Where did you grow up? You didn't grow up in this area?
No. So I was born in California and grew up in Texas.
What brought you to Idaho?
So my wife is from Utah.
Okay.
And so I met my wife and decided to stick around Utah.
Another beautiful state.
Another beautiful state, yeah. But again, with Utah, like, everyone knows Utah is beautiful. It's got the 5 national parks. It's got several national monuments. Idaho has like a sliver of Yellowstone. It has Craters of the Moon National Monument. But apart from that, it's not like super well known as far as tourist places go. So that's why I like Idaho. Utah is awesome. I've probably spent more time traveling Utah than anywhere else. Okay. But Idaho is a little bit more low-key, a little bit more under the radar, which I really like.
Definitely less crowded.
Yes.
The places that we've gone to, I've been really impressed that it hasn't been overwhelming with crowds. It's just nice to go like recreate here.
Yeah, the population density here is just so much lower than Utah.
So getting back to the SUV RVing and so forth, now, obviously, one of the reasons you like being nimble is you like to go adventuring.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about the adventuring that you do and what inspired it. So like when was the first time you went out in the field, and like what was that feeling like?
I first learned about this type of camping when I was a kid, probably. Okay. Like, my dad was really into the outdoors. He was into mountain climbing and everything like that. And so I kind of had that in my family growing up, and like hearing his stories of climbing Mount Rainier in Washington or climbing mountains in Utah. And so that was kind of instilled in me from an early age. And so I was really into rock climbing for a long time. And there's kind of a subculture in rock climbing of the dirtbag climber.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and just like the guy who lives in his car and lives off of ramen and just climbs, you know, travels around the country and goes to different climbing areas. And so the fact that people like live in a car or live in a vehicle and travel around, that really appealed to me.
Yeah, and you knew about it from a younger age.
Exactly. So I was aware that people do that sort of thing. And so I've been backpacking and hiking, you know, since I was a kid. I was in Boy Scouts, so you know, did all that sort of thing. And when I was like 25 or so.
Okay.
It was time to buy a new car. That's when I ended up buying an SUV. And so I like hiking, I like climbing, pack rafting or kayaking, do a lot of fishing.
So yeah, for all those adventures, you're going
Yeah.
off the beaten path, and
Yes.
so you need a higher clearance vehicle,
Yes.
so forth.
And I'm not a social person, and so I don't like really camping around other people. I
Yeah.
don't like being around other people when I'm outdoors. I'm fine with being in cities, but when I'm in the outdoors, I want to be in the outdoors.
You appreciate the solitude and
Yes.
just
I
being...
crave the solitude. Like I
Yes.
want to be, if I can see another camper somewhere, that's too close.
Yes.
You know, like I want to be way in the boonies in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so SUVs in general have a little bit more clearance than a minivan, usually a shorter wheelbase. So that's better for getting off into off the beaten path places. And then with something like this is a Land Cruiser. This is my new car here, and this has a lift on it, so even better. You know?
Yeah. And so your first vehicle was what?
A RAV4.
A RAV4.
Yeah.
And
So
you still have that?
I still have that. So it's a 2011 RAV4. I've put, I think, I've put almost 150,000 miles on it since I bought it.
Oh, wow.
5 or 6 years ago. And so I still have it. I love it. I alternate between this and the RAV4. The RAV4 gets way better gas mileage. This gets like 11 to 14 miles per gallon.
And what does a RAV4 get?
24, 25.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent.
So double,
Yeah.
double the Land Cruiser.
Well, I
And
remember
it's a
when
great little car.
And when I met you at the RTR, you were in the RAV4.
Yes.
And so that was what I saw of him. But then I'd heard about, again, the new vehicle that he got. Now, you were in a different vehicle just a little while ago, but you had an accident, right?
Yes. So I had a GMC Yukon, which is the same thing as a Chevy Tahoe.
Okay.
It's basically just like a shortened Suburban.
Okay.
And it was a good car. I liked it. It had a lift and the bigger tires and four-wheel drive and everything like that. But I crashed it. I flipped it over on some ice.
Okay.
And
glad you're okay.
I was fine, but the car was totaled.
Okay.
And so I needed to get something else.
And do you like this better than the?
Yes.
You do. Okay, so it's an improvement.
It is
good.
an improvement. This cost like 4 times what the Yukon did.
Okay.
But it's much smoother. It's much quieter. It's just a nicer car in general to drive.
And what year is this?
This is a 2000.
So it's a 2000 Toyota Land Cruiser.
Yes.
Okay. And how many miles does it have on it?
Has 147,000 miles on it.
Okay, gotcha. And you just bought this a month ago?
A couple months ago.
Months ago. Tell us a little bit more about your channel, your YouTube channel, and you also have a website.
Yeah, so it's called SUVRVing, and it's what it sounds like. I go around and camp in my car and go on adventures from there. Again, I do the hiking, paddling,
Gotcha.
fishing. I don't cover fishing much on that channel. I have a separate fishing channel called Tenkara Addict, but yeah, outdoors and obscure little historical sites. I like that sort of thing, and just interesting geological areas, just interesting little bits and pieces of the Western U.S. that you don't see very often, you don't really know about very often.
I remember the video that you did on arches, going in the back way into arches, and again, just going with that solitude where you're not going with the masses into the park to one of the arches. I don't remember which arch that was.
It was Delicate Arch.
Delicate Arch.
Yeah.
And, you know, taking an alternate route. And I really appreciated that, because I would rather not go with the drones of people or droves of people that are doing it. I would much rather have a nice, relaxing solitude hike.
Sure.
So.
And things like that, things like Delicate Arch, they're so crowded, but they're also so awesome that like you kind of have to do it, and it's worth doing. But there's just a lot of people there, so if you can figure out a back way to do that, it makes it just a little bit more bearable, a little bit more enjoyable. And so when I do go to places like national parks, I do try to find the lesser known kind of off the beaten path spots, because I've been to most of the major sites at this point. Yeah. And so like I've been doing this for 6 years now. Yeah. And so it's I can afford to take the time to bypass the super common stuff and check out the other places.
All right. You also have a book though, right? And what is the book on?
It's called SUVRVing, so same kind of thing.
Is it a how-to, or is it where to go, or what is it?
It's how-to. It's basically why SUVs and how to choose an SUV, have a camping setup in an SUV, what to do for food, and going to the bathroom and things like that.
Okay. Well, folks, we went a little long in the video of the tour. We both get just chatting, and it just happened. So so we're going to go ahead and end this video, and then we're going to do a second video right after this. Stay tuned. Watch the next video where we're actually going to see the tour of Tristan's new SUV, new to him SUV. What do you guys think of his lifestyle and what he's doing with his channel, the fact that he has a book? Can you imagine living in an SUV like this? Let us know in the comments below. Tristan, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to checking out the rig next. If you got something out of this video, give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, we'll see you guys down the road. Bye, guys. Yeah, it's not surprising when I make a lot of mistakes.
Okay, we can do it a bunch of times. I'm
yeah, exactly. So
I'm a pro at making mistakes while,
yes,
while
right,
filming.
yes.
So.